Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got day 15 of Michelle Troconis. Oh boy. This is gonna be, well, hopefully this is better than what we got, because I don't know. Yesterday was like, we know Fotis did it. Like that's all we learned from yesterday. Fotis Dulos did it. Like there's nothing we've learned, there's nothing we've gained. Um, there's I just I don't know what we're getting out of this at this point, because like I said, I just want them to. I just want them. I wish I could go with the prosecutors. I'm like, can you just show me the piece of evidence that's got like your fingerprints on it? That's all I want. Just for the love of God, give me something. That's all I want from you guys. And I'm sure that they aren't going to be able to do that. I'm sure they're going to him and haw or say like, well, we've got pictures of her wiping her hands off on the street. It's like, that doesn't help me. Like, give me what I need here, man. But God. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it, because this is god tier nonsense. It is. It is. It is just muy ridiculoso, as my people would say. But we are going to start it up. So here we go. You guys have Rumble running, and I know Locals has the chat going. So I know you guys really wanted Locals chat. So, let's see here. So here we go. So an MLRS raid. Well, technically I rated it over too. So, here we go. So we're gonna run this at decent speed. Get ready for tonight.
Or the other couple of people that I mentioned. So again, I'm thinking in terms of how much this jury has to take in over a month's time. And I recognize what Your Honor did say yesterday about, this jury can sort of discern what's important or not. But my point, I think, should be they don't know until the court gives instructions what's important, what's not. So, I mean, I've never been a juror. I've done mock trials and I've been a mock juror. But when you're spending a month and there's going to be hundreds of exhibits, perhaps, before we're done, if the jury doesn't at least have an idea of what's not important, rather than going through each item, I'm asking that the court exercise some discretion to limit that type of testimony, because by the time this jury is done, they're going to be dealing with items. They have to go through everything. The court's going to instruct the jury. I assume they have to review everything and make before they deliver. And how they do that is up to them. But they're going to obviously be some people want to go through every single item. We could be here. It could be a week before they even get to the point of saying, now we're going to start deliberating. That's my concern. After they get the case.
Well, the court is always interested in efficiency. However, just to use a musical analogy, if the state wants to use 4 quarter notes per bar instead of 8th notes or 16th notes, the court is not going to interfere with its style. However, if counsel for the state and the defense come to some agreement as to whether there would be objections if there were offers of exhibits that ran as a chain, the court would certainly encourage counsel to discuss that.
Well, in that vein, Your Honor, I'll note that yesterday, Mr. McGinnis and I reached an agreement. There's that unrelated white, you can correct me if I'm misstating, the white T-shirt, the Hanes extra large white T-shirts that's shown in some of the photographs that was found in one of the trash barrels. The state and the defense are going to stipulate, I don't know if you wanted to do it in writing or just verbally, because we talked about it, that it has nothing to do with the case and we don't have to go further into it, that it was determined to be unrelated, however, which way we're going to phrase it. But we did that. That's only one item. We're dealing with dozens, if not scores of items that are ending up not having any evidentiary value. That's my concern.
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, speaking of agreements, I did prepare a stipulation with respect to some of the evidence which has been seized, which was shown to Attorney Schoenhorn yesterday. He requested a single amendment, which I made, and so I'm asking that he and Attorney Felsen review this and hopefully sign it so that we can begin publishing it to the jury forthwith. And I'm also giving him a copy of the proposed photographs that I'm going to be using with Ms. Roy today. He already has these photographs, Your Honor, but I'm giving him the specific ones that are going to be used.
Thank you. I'm going to need, at some point, last night, I didn't go through the draft that Mr. McGinnis gave me, so I'm going to need to chat to him about one of the items on this list. So before that is offered, I don't know if it's better if we do it now or we do it at the break. I don't know what Your Honor prefers.
Well, if we will not get to it before the break, the court would prefer that be discussed at the break.
As with the state, Your Honor, we do anticipate, however, and Attorney Manning's witness, so I certainly don't want to speak for her, but my understanding is that the next witness will be not terribly long, and so I don't think that she's going to be taking us to the first break. So we could discuss it now. I could go downstairs and perhaps make an amendment, but without having to bring the jury in and out.
How much time do you need, Attorney McGinnis?
I don't know what Attorney Schoenhorn's referring to, so
May I just have a moment, Mr.
Yes.
McGinnis, now?
So, Judge, there were a set of keys which were identified as State Police Exhibit 502GG. You'll recall, Your Honor, I believe it was a week and a half ago that Attorney Manning attempted to introduce a physical copy of those keys. Now, the physical copy of the keys, the actual keys, were not received as an exhibit by the court. The court excluded it, I believe, based on relevance grounds. However, a photograph of 502GG was displayed to the jury. 502GG
Howdy, Nick.
was swabbed by the police
Hope you're
department
doing well.
for forensic DNA testing.
All right, you gotta get these super chats out of the way real quick. Don't want anybody to be left hanging. Unhung Hero for $2. Oh, I'm gonna come. Don't come. Don't come. Then Nick Starro. Nick Starro's Trial Watch for 20 Swedish kroner. Says, give me what I need. It's good to see you, Nick. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to him, give him a look. I think you guys will like what you see down there. So good to see you, Nick. And Shepikos is first and not prepared for the mess this trial is. Yeah, well, tis what it is. Paralegalist says, what state am I in? I am in the state of Ohio. So, anyways, let's get back to the show.
Ultimately, I don't think that there was any profile found on it, but I included it in the stipulation because it was tested. So it's unclear to the state whether or not the court was simply precluding the physical exhibit or whether or not the court was precluding any and all mention of 502GG. So if the court was precluding any and all reference to that, I can certainly take that out of the stipulation.
Well, the concern for the court at the time of the offer was that the officer who retrieved the keys gave no reason for retrieving the keys. So the court the court found that the keys themselves were not relevant. So at this point, the representation is that there was no profile developed from the key.
Correct.
There need be no discussion of the key.
Yes, Judge. So with that, I can make that amendment very quickly. Either, would you like me to do that now?
Did you need to do it in writing or no?
These snips are in writing, and as I said, if that comes out, I'm prepared, and along with Attorney Felsen, to sign the stipulation.
So would you have to go downstairs and basically amend the document?
It should take me 5.
Why don't we come back do you think you would be ready at 10:20?
I do, Judge.
Come back at 10:20. We'll take a recess.
All rise. This honorable Superior Court now stays in recess
So,
until 10:20.
They're working on a
Back to the courtroom.
stipulation here, and they're going to be messing with it. So let's time travel up till we get to there and see what they're talking about. Now, stipulation is just an agreement between the parties that accept it as a fact. So if they stipulate that March 23rd or May 24th was a Friday, the jury has to accept that fact. They can't determine it differently. So let's see what they talk about here.
Attorney McGinnis, have you had an opportunity to allow Attorney Schoenhorn to review the stipulation?
I haven't had a chance to review it yet, Your Honor, but it's just one paragraph being deleted, so.
I'll take him at his word, Your Honor.
Thank you. We can therefore bring in the jury, please.
If only you could do that.
Would counsel stipulate, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We continue with the state's case.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would call Sydney Streeter to the stand, please.
Will this be technical testimony?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Sydney Streeter, Sidnee. Streeter, Streeter.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning, Ms. Streeter.
Good morning.
Ms. Streeter, in 2019, were you employed as a parenting supervisor?
Yes, I was.
What does a parenting supervisor do?
So my role is to monitor the interactions between the parent and the children to ensure that they're appropriate and to provide parenting skills when needed.
With respect to, well, can you describe some of your training and educational background that qualifies you to be a parenting supervisor?
Yes, I received my bachelor's degree in social work at Southern Connecticut State University. And then I received my master's in social work at Fordham University in New York. And I am also a licensed social worker.
Were you acting as a parenting supervisor to Fotis Dulos on May 22nd, 2019?
Yes.
So again, what
were
does
the
this got to
specific
do with
requirements
her?
of the court order with respect to his visitation with his children that day?
I was to maintain a line of sight, and he was supposed to be within earshot of me. Fotis was not allowed to be on Jennifer's property until the supervisor was present for the visit. He also was supposed to leave prior to the supervisor leaving at the end
That's
of the
not
visit.
uncommon, actually.
Was he
so.
allowed into her residence?
He was not allowed into the residence.
When you say property, do you mean 69 Wells?
Yes.
Have you ever supervised Fotis Dulos with his children before that day?
No.
Do you know who did?
Yes, my supervisor,
And who is that?
Dennis Puebla.
For May 22nd, 2019, what time was the visitation supposed to start?
3:30.
Was there a specific plan or itinerary for that day?
Yes.
Why was that?
It was a request from Jennifer.
Was there a requirement for an itinerary to be approved prior to every visitation, to your knowledge?
Yes.
And was the itinerary inset for May 22nd, 2019?
Yes.
What was it?
They discussed going to Grace Farms to play basketball with the children, and then also to have cake with the children back at the home.
That would be only Fotis Dulos and the children, or would Jennifer be involved in this as well?
If she pleased.
Did she please? Was she involved at all?
No, she was not involved.
What time did you arrive at 69 Wells Lane?
About 3:25.
Who was present when you arrived?
Jennifer was present, and the children were present as well.
Where were they?
They were in the driveway playing basketball.
The children, how many children?
5.
Was this your first time meeting them?
Yes.
What were they doing?
They were playing basketball, their new basketball hoop.
Were the garage doors of the residence open when they were playing basketball when you arrived?
I don't recall.
Was Fotis Dulos on scene?
No.
Did you see him arrive?
Yes.
What was he driving?
Black Suburban.
What was his initial interaction with the children like?
Pretty friendly.
What did you observe about their interaction? What did they do?
They noticed that Fotis had a new haircut. They joked about it, and then they all jumped on him and rubbed his head.
Did he bring anything with him?
Yes.
What did he bring with him?
Food, candy, and cake.
How long was the visit supposed to last?
3 hours.
And were you supposed to and required to be there for the entire 3 hours
Yes.
in his line of sight, or he in your line of sight
He in my line of sight.
and within earshot?
Yes.
So he was not allowed to have any unsupervised contact with these children during your time there that day?
No.
Now, with You indicated he brought food.
Yes,
What food did he bring?
bread and salad.
What did he do anything with the food when he first got there?
The food he kept in the trunk. However, with the cake, he did ask Jennifer if she could put it in the refrigerator.
What kind of cake was it?
I don't recall.
Did he give the cake to Jennifer?
Yes,
What did you watch Jennifer do?
she walked away with the cake
Did she come
into the
back?
home, and then she came back without the cake.
Do you know what she did with the cake?
I can't say.
Okay. Did you go in the house with her?
No,
Did you ever enter the house that day?
no.
When she came back out after bringing the cake inside, what happened next?
Jennifer wanted to confirm the itinerary for the day, and what time Fotis will be back from Grace Farms with the children.
Did he indicate a time he would be back with the children?
He said around 6:15 p.m.
Why that time?
I'm not sure.
You also mentioned, I think, well, was there any other food that he had?
He had candy. He had chocolate bunnies for the children.
And was there any interaction between him and Jennifer with respect to the candy?
Yes, when Fotis pulled out the chocolate bunnies and offered it to the children, Jennifer expressed that she eats chocolate every day. So Fotis said, maybe one of the children would like to sacrifice the chocolate bunny, one of their chocolate bunnies for you. And he ripped off a piece of.
Ooh,
Did
that's
you see her eat it?
sacrificing the bunnies.
Were their interaction at that time, well, how would you describe it?
It was pretty amicable.
Did they shake hands?
No,
Did they hug each other?
no,
Did they touch in any way?
no.
And was it the one chocolate he handed her and she ate? That was it?
Yes,
Did you drive with them to Grace Farms?
yes.
And that was Fotis and how many children?
Three of the children, I believe.
And what is Grace Farms?
What is Grace Farms?
Yes, what kind of place is it?
It's like a recreational center.
Where is it?
I don't recall.
Is it in New Canaan?
Yes, I believe it's in the Canyon area.
What did you do at Grace Farms with Fotis and the children?
They just played basketball in the basketball court.
And what's your role at this time?
Just observing, assuring that the interactions are appropriate.
And at some point, did you return back to 69 Wells?
Yes,
Around what time did you return to 69 Wells?
around 6:20.
By the way, do you go in his car with the children
Yes, I sit in the front passenger seat.
and maintain that line of sight?
Yes,
When you returned to 69 Wells, did you see Jennifer?
Guys, this
on
is
the
actually
property?
100% normal. Court supervised visitations.
And what did Fotis and the children and yourself do after you returned to 69 Wells?
we prepared.
Getting in the car though is a
at
little
the picnic
awkward,
table
but
Where was the picnic table located?
in the backyard.
Did anybody enter the house at this time? Any of the children?
Yes,
Do you recall who entered the house?
Christiane.
Why did she enter the house?
Fotis asked her to see if Jennifer wanted to join them to eat.
And was Jennifer on the property or on the house?
Christiane expressed that she was not.
And what about the food they had for dinner? Where did that come from?
So Fotis brought the food with him, and it was sitting in his trunk. And that's what they ate.
On the picnic table in the back
Yes.
patio?
Yes.
What about any plates or napkins or anything like that? Do you recall how that was set up?
He asked the children to bring stuff from out of the house.
And did they?
Yes.
bring your paper towels, kids.
Did he ever enter the house at any point while you were eating dinner? Did
Yes.
he ever leave your line of sight?
No,
What about the cake? Who was the cake for?
I don't recall.
And at some point, did you eat the cake?
Did I? No, I did
Okay,
not.
well, did the children and Fotis Dulos eat the cake?
Yes,
And how did the cake get from the house back to outside?
I don't recall.
Did Fotis go inside to get it?
No, he did not.
Did Jennifer come down and bring the cake out?
No, she did not.
Did one of the children?
I believe so.
Now, after dinner was completed, how did the items for dinner at the picnic table get cleaned up? Do you remember?
The children cleaned it.
Did Fotis do any of that?
He just gathered the things on the picnic table, but he did not bring anything inside.
And what did you do then?
What did we do then?
Yes, after the dinner was done, after the cake was done, was there still time left in his visitation?
Yes, and the children went back to the basketball hoop and began playing basketball again.
How many children at this point?
4.
When he went back and the children went back to playing basketball, did you maintain that line of sight?
Yes.
Were the garage doors open?
One of the garage doors was open.
Do you recall which garage door?
The garage door closest to the street.
Was there a vehicle inside that door or that
Yes.
garage bag?
Yes,
Do you know what vehicle it was?
I don't recall.
Did you see Jennifer at this point?
Yes,
Where did she come from?
I don't know.
Okay. Was she inside the residence?
She was near the garage.
She was near the
So I can
garage.
assume that's where she came from.
And did she interact with Fotis Dulos at that time?
No, her interaction was mostly with the children.
And with respect to their interaction with each other, at any point in the rest of the night prior to the visit being done, did Fotis and Jennifer ever touch?
Not
Ever
that I
shake
recall.
hands?
No,
Were they cordial with each other at that time?
yes,
And at some point, did Fotis Dulos leave 69 Wells?
yes,
Were you still present on the property when he left?
yes.
Do you recall around what time that was?
A little after 7:37, closer to 7:40.
So just to be clear, this was the first time you had supervised the children and been there?
Yes,
Okay. And you did not see Fotis Dulos enter the house or the garage at any point during that interaction?
I did not.
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Rieger.
Good morning.
My name is John Schoenhorn. I represent Michelle Troconis in this case. You don't know who she is, right?
No.
Never met her.
No, I have not.
So I understand that you were a master's in social work, correct?
Yes,
And you were on that occasion on May 22nd, 2019, acting as a parenting supervisor, correct?
yes.
Now, you also have your own social work practice now, correct?
I do not.
You do not. You work for other social workers who have their own practice.
Yes,
And in May of 2019, were you working for Dennis Puebla?
yes, I was, as an
And
independent contractor.
you were a contract employee with Mr. Puebla, correct?
Yes,
So you might have individuals that you would supervise specifically, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think.
yes,
Just because everything's being taken down, they won't hear the mhm or a nod, okay? So that's why the way it works here is you have to say something verbally, okay? But and sometimes when Mr. Puebla was not available, you might fill in for him, correct?
this was the first time.
Well, it was the first time. Did you believe the withdrawn? In order to be able to effectively supervise, you would have to consult with Mr. Puebla about what's going on with the particular dynamic in the divorce case, right?
Not necessarily.
Were you at least given some general parameters about whether this was a generally friendly or a contentious divorce?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
It's not being offered for the truth, it's being offered to how this witness would have then responded.
Yeah, what was their
and
knowledge?
interact.
That's not.
Well, the testimony on direct examination is that this witness conducted the supervision on May 22nd. There was no direct examination as to whether she was briefed on the background of the
Yeah.
marriage
But
or the pending divorce. So in this court's view, it's beyond the scope.
is it really
The objection
though?
was hearsay, was the court.
Well, if the state is claiming hearsay, that's overruled.
I would add beyond the scope as well, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Thank you.
No, come on.
Have you been involved as a parenting supervisor on other occasions?
Yes,
And could you explain to the jury, why is there a need for a parenting supervisor in a case?
I'd object, Your Honor.
Well, the question really is, what does a parenting supervisor do? And that leads to the reasons parenting supervisors are used, so overruled.
You can answer the question.
can you repeat the question?
Yes, what is the role or purpose of a parenting supervisor in a case?
The role is to ensure that the interactions between the parent and the children are appropriate,
Why is there,
Because-
according to whom?
according to my observations.
But what is the role, where is the need for the role of a parenting supervisor come from?
It was determined within court as a suggestion or request of a parent.
What kind of court proceeding would that involve?
Objection.
Beyond the scope, sustained.
Would this be in a custody? court?
Really?
Objection.
Well, the defense is now trying to pry open a door that was not opened on direct. Sustained.
Does everybody need a parenting supervisor in their interaction?
Objection.
No.
Well, the testimony so far is that at the request of a parent, a parenting supervisor may be required for visitation. So the question now is, does everyone need a parenting supervisor? The obvious answer is no, if there's no request of the parent.
Yeah.
So any parent can request a parenting supervisor on their own against a spouse or a other parent?
Objection.
Beyond the scope sustained.
I just want to be clear. A parenting supervisor is a court-ordered position, isn't it?
Yes,
And you received your bachelor's in social work, is that right?
yes,
As well as your master's in social work, right?
yes,
And you had that prior to May of 2019, correct?
yes,
As part of your job, as I understand your answer to the question, part of your instructions were to remain in line of sight of Mr. Dulos and the children at all times.
yes.
Where did that instruction come from?
That's a part of my role as a parenting supervisor.
And again, you're a licensed social worker.
Yes,
And your job is to observe the interaction, right?
yes,
And as part of that, you have to prepare a report, correct?
Objection.
Well, what's the
Lack of
ground?
foundation with respect to the May 22nd. It's also outside the scope.
Well, the question is, do you prepare a report about what you observed on May 22nd or in any parenting supervision environment? Overruled.
yes. Documentation is required for all social work positions.
And that documentation is done very rapidly after the visitation, is that correct?
Yes,
And is that something you know is presented to the court?
not always.
But it's prepared as part of your job and as your business as a parenting supervisor, correct?
I am required to document my observations
And when you say required by what or whom?
for my supervisor
And how quickly would you have documented that?
within 24 hours.
And then that is presented and submitted to the supervisor, in this case, Mr. Puebla's office?
Yes,
Would it be part of your requirement that you be as accurate and as detailed as possible to document everything that you observe?
yes,
And is it part of your job then to prepare such a report?
yes.
Sure.
See where this goes.
Where's the rest of it?
For identification,
You can put.
I'm going to show you this document marked as Q for identification. Can you tell us whether you recognize that document?
Yes, I recognize this document.
What is it?
This is my note that I submitted to my supervisor from May 22nd.
And that contains all the information regarding your observations of the interaction between Mr. Dulos and the children?
This is not all of it, but this is some of it.
There was more to it than that?
Yes,
KJ, I mean, he's doing it to both sides. This is his speaking it out. Like, he kind of helps both. So that's being impartial. But he's not really helping them. He's just stating the proper way it should be done. Like supporting the record. So
I'm gonna check on that. There's like another, what, part of the page?
I think it was 3 pages long.
Oh, okay. I'll have that checked in a second. Let me ask you some other questions.
but thank you for the super chat.
So you said that when Mr. Dulos arrived, the children were playing basketball. Is that correct?
Yes,
you observed them run over to their father when he drove in,
Oh.
Yes,
and you indicated that he had sort of a short haircut at that point.
yes.
And I think you testified just a few minutes ago, they were all like rubbing his head, like, could you just demonstrate what they were all doing?
Like literally just like rubbing his head.
All of them.
Yeah,
And we just letting them do that?
yes.
And did they like or not like that haircut?
I can't completely say, but I can say that they were indifferent.
Okay, but they were certainly, there was hair there that they were all rubbing, right?
Yes.
Short hair,
Yes.
like a crew cut.
I don't
You
know
know
what a
what-
crew,
you
I don't
know
know
what
what
a
a
crew
crew cut is.
Okay,
I'll give you a crew cut.
that's one of those, I don't think anyone gets those anymore. In any event, they then played basketball with their father, right?
Yes,
They were all laughing and having fun, right?
yes,
And they were all playing with the basketball together.
yes,
And the hoop was one of these basketball hoops that's installed in the driveway.
yes.
And I'm just gonna ask if I could just step over here for a second. I'm gonna wait a moment. I'm having my tech person find an image to show you the basketball hoop. But in any event, the basketball hoop was in the driveway, correct?
Yes,
Sort of across from the garage doors, right?
yes.
And they were all playing, including the younger children?
I don't recall.
But in any event, how many of the children did you observe playing?
At the start of the visit, all 5 of the children. At the start of the visit, 5.
Okay, and how long were they playing basketball?
Until they left for Grace Farms.
You did indicate, I believe, that at one point there was a chocolate cake that was taken out of the trunk of the Mr. Dulos' vehicle, correct?
There
How
was a cake.
tasty was that cake,
I do not
sir?
recall if the cake was chocolate.
Okay.
One of the children asked if it were a chocolate cake.
And you don't recall what the answer was?
I don't recall what the answer was.
Was it in a box?
I don't recall what it was in.
Was it loose? Just
It was covered.
It was covered.
Yes,
And was that cake handed specifically to someone?
yes,
And that was handed to Jennifer Dulos, right? Who took it?
yes.
And did she take it into the house?
I believe so.
Do you see where she took it into the house?
No, I did not.
Did you see whether she went through the garage?
I don't recall.
After Miss Dulos took the cake into the house, did she say anything about one of the children and whether the child could go with them to Grace Park?
Yes,
What did she say?
she mentioned that one of the children had other activities and they would not be able to attend.
Was that a lacrosse game
I don't recall.
or a lacrosse practice?
I don't recall.
Would looking at your report assist you in refreshing your recollection on that point?
I know that there was a lacrosse practice at the end of the visit.
But you don't know if that was the activity that one of the children had that would preclude that child from going to Grace Park?
Correct.
Okay. And just for the record, I mean, I'm calling it Grace Park, it's Grace Farms, right?
Yes,
Is it still a park?
I have no idea.
When, did you go with them to Grace Farms?
Yes.
And what kind of activities are there?
I can't really say. We just focused on the basketball court.
There was a basketball court at the Grace Farms?
Yes, indoor.
I'm sorry, the
It was an indoor basketball court.
indoor. And did all the children participate in that activity?
Yes,
Now,
except
while,
for the one that
I
wasn't able
didn't mean to
to.
interrupt, except for the one that wasn't there.
Right.
Fair enough. When you observed the activity and the interaction between Mr. Dulos and his wife, you said it appeared cordial to you, correct?
Yes, amicable, yes.
Amicable, right? They were talking in a normal tone?
Yes,
They were conversing in what you'd consider on normal topics?
yes,
They were interacting in a friendly manner?
I would say so.
In other words, it appeared to you they were getting along. Isn't that true?
Yes,
You did say that you were in the line of sight of Mr. Dulos at all times, correct?
correct.
How far away from him were you at all times?
Not far at all.
As far as you are from me or farther than that?
That was probably the largest distance.
So if I were to estimate that we're about maybe 10, 12 feet apart, would that be about the farthest you were ever away?
Yes,
So you were able to not only witness his interaction with others that afternoon, but also hear what he was saying, right?
yes,
And you were able to hear what the children were saying, right?
yes,
And what Jennifer Dulos was saying, right?
yes.
The children did get into his car, right?
Yes,
They went to Grace Farms,
yes,
and then they came back in the car about 6:15, am I correct?
around 6:20, yes.
You arrived at 4:30 that afternoon, right?
No,
What time did you arrive?
I arrived at 3:25.
3:25.
Sorry, 4:25.
4:25.
Sorry.
And Mr. Dulos, you said, came a little bit after that,
Yes,
that you observed.
yes, yes.
Okay. And in any event, there was, when they got back to the house, the children got out of the Suburban.
Yes,
That's Mr. Dulos' Suburban.
Yes.
right? Chevy Suburban.
yes,
Mr. Dulos got out.
yes.
He had a pair of shoes for one of the children, right?
Are you referring to the beginning of the visit or when we came back from Grace Farms?
The question is, do you recall Mr. Dulos giving a gift to one of his children of a pair of shoes?
Yes,
And was that before or after being at Grace
before,
Farms? That was before.
before.
And just for the record, do you recall that this was some kind of special event or day for one of the children?
I believe it was around a birthday.
Was it, I'm
Or
not
some
that
type of
familiar with Greek
celebration.
Orthodox naming day, but was it actually was that the celebration, the naming day?
It could be.
Are you familiar with all with that tradition in the Greek culture of having naming day being the day your saint, your Greek saint is the name of their child?
I am not familiar. with
Okay. But in any event, you do recall that child got a gift of shoes,
it.
right?
Yes.
And it was some kind of athletic shoes, was it not?
I believe it was a pair of Vans.
Vans, okay. And then the child put one on and was playing with two different kinds of shoes, right?
Yes,
You do remember that?
yes, I do.
You had mentioned also on direct, something about a chocolate Easter bunny. Do you remember that testimony a little bit ago?
I do.
So where did the Easter bunnies come from?
From photos.
The chocolate starfish
You
and the
also
hot
know
dog
that
flavored
the
water.
Greek Easter or the Eastern Orthodox Easter is a different date than what I call on the Roman calendar.
Objection, relevance.
Relevance, counsel.
It's only to set, it's just a little bit of leeway so that I can just set up the scenario why there would be chocolate Easter bunnies.
Well, the question could simply be, do you know the reason there would be chocolate Easter bunnies?
Do you know that the reason that there was chocolate Easter bunnies because it was the
Objection.
celebration of Greek Easter?
You can ask, do you know why they were
Court is
there?
going to allow that question.
I do not.
Okay, but in any event, there were chocolate Easter bunnies.
Yeah, I get it. We're
Yes.
just gonna allow it
And
to
at
get out of
that
the way.
point, Jennifer Dulos was standing there, right?
Yes,
And she said that she liked to eat chocolate every day. Isn't that what she said?
yes, she did.
In response to that, Mr. Dulos, in your earshot said, as I understand it, maybe one of the children would sacrifice their bunny for you, correct?
Correct.
At that point, Mr. Dulos broke off a piece of the Easter bunny.
Yes,
Now, are these those tall chocolate Easter bunnies that are maybe, 8 or 10 inches tall that you can see at the supermarket at around Easter time?
yeah, I wouldn't say that they were 8 inches tall, but
6 inches?
Yeah,
They're
no.
they're not little tiny things,
yeah, yes,
right? And you can break off the ears sometimes.
yes,
And you saw him do that, break off part of the Easter bunny.
I did.
And you saw him hand it to his wife, right?
Yes,
And you saw her take that chocolate in her hand, right?
yes,
And put it in her mouth.
yes,
You said that at some point.
You put
she
it
then
in your
went back into the house,
mouth.
right?
yes.
Did you eat a chocolate Easter bunny? that
I was
day?
not offered any.
You did or did not?
I was not offered
You were
any.
not,
Aw.
offered. Were there not enough?
Objection.
I'll withdraw that question.
Yeah.
In any event, there was some discussion between Mr. Dulos and wife about the placement of the basketball hoop, correct?
Yes,
And that he complimented her on the location of where it had been installed.
yes,
And he liked the fact it had a safety shield behind it.
yes,
The backboard, you mean? The safety shield? It's like the dopiest white guy ever. Yes, the safety shield on the sports ball thing.
It's my understanding that when the children came back with Mr. Dulos, there had been apparently the Grace Farms had closed early because of the Memorial Day weekend. Is that correct?
I do not recall.
You remember the original plan was that they would have the picnic and the food that he had brought at the park.
That was not my understanding.
Well, where was it supposed to take place?
He was going to eat out of his trunk.
Eat out of the trunk of the Suburban.
Yes,
And at that point, Jennifer offered, why don't you use the picnic table on the back
yes,
deck, right? Or the back of the house, right?
yes,
It was her suggestion, right?
yes,
And I'm going to show you, you went there with them, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you an image, which I have to say, I don't remember which, it's been offered as a state's exhibit. I would have to go find it, which one it is, but I'm going to show you an image from the house and just see if you recognize the location. Could you turn on this one, please? I'll just identify what it is. It was early on in the case, and I'd have to go through my notes to find the specific state's exhibit. Oh, it's exhibit 9, state's exhibit 9. You recognize that house being the 69 Wells Lane house that you acted as a supervisor on May 22, 2019?
Yes.
And although it's not in this image, and I was hoping it would be, the basketball hoop was off to the left, correct?
Yes.
And that would be, the hoop and the backboard would be facing the garage, correct?
Yes.
And that's the garage, you said you saw a black vehicle when the garage door was open, right?
I don't recall.
Well, I'm not asking about the specific garage door,
Okay.
but one of those garage doors was open, so you saw the vehicle. in there.
Yes.
Okay. You don't remember what kind of vehicle it was, though?
Some type of truck.
I couldn't hear you.
Some type of truck. I don't recall exactly.
Some kind of a truck or SUV or
Yes,
something?
yes.
Okay. In any event, I'm going to have you observe a certain part of the backyard. This is the backyard of the house?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to zoom in on a section there. Is this the table in the area where you observed where the outdoor picnic took place?
Yes.
Were chairs brought out so there were enough seats for all the children and Mr. Dulos? And you?
There were enough seats.
There were. In order to, and Mr. Dulos, I believe, brought, did he bring a salad?
Yes.
Did he bring other food?
Salad and bread.
And bread? Was this when you say a salad, was it like a big salad with lots of stuff in it?
Yes.
Did you have any of that?
I did not.
Were you offered any of that?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't want any of it.
No, I did not.
This is up to where you offering
The
any.
children.
See, my
ate on
client's a
plates,
nice
isn't that right?
boy.
I do not recall.
The children used utensils, correct?
Yes.
One or more of the children went in to get those utensils, right?
Yes.
And did they bring out drinks or cups or anything so they could have something to drink?
I don't recall.
They weren't just drinking bottles of pop or soda, were they?
I don't recall what they were drinking.
Okay. How long was the festivities, the meal part of this visit? Do you recall?
Not specifically.
Was it true though that about 6:15 is when they came back and ate with the children?
Yes.
And that the children ate rather with Mr. Dulos? Is that
Yes.
correct? And the event itself, that is the visit ended around 7:30, isn't that right?
A little after 7:30.
And you watched Mr. Dulos leave
Yes.
and you left immediately after that?
Yes.
The entire interaction between Mr. Dulos and his wife was cordial as far as you observed, correct?
Yes.
And they talked in a normal tone?
Yes.
You indicated that you thought at one point Miss Dulos had to leave for an event for one of the children, is that correct?
Yes. She had to bring one of the children to lacrosse.
She had to bring the child to lacrosse. Did you
A
happen
croissant.
to note the time she left? Or
It is noted in the rest of my note.
okay, you don't have that in
That's
front
not
of you?
here.
Okay, you don't recall,
I don't recall.
but you do recall that she did come back at some point, right?
Yes.
At no point while Miss Dulos was there did he ask to go in the house for any reason?
No, he did not.
At no point after she departed did he seek or ask to go in for any reason? right?
No.
You didn't see him walking around the property away from the children, into looking at windows and stuff?
No.
There was normal conversation with the children about what they were doing in school, right?
Yes.
What they were learning in school.
Yes.
There was talk about water skiing,
Yes.
and the kids were asking what they would get to do on the weekend, right?
Yes.
You knew that there was a plan that he was going to have the children on the weekend, right?
I did not.
You did not know?
No.
Did you know that was any discussion about what they were going to do in your presence?
Not that I recall.
Okay. If I just have a moment. Just need a moment, Your Honor.
Let's go, counsel. Killing us here. What's he doing? Come on. Let's go.
For your identification, I found the full report, and I'm just getting it downloaded and printed so that we don't have to.
Oh my gosh, come on, dude. I'm trying not to fast forward because I don't want to ruin the groove here. Let's go tech boomers.
Document.
Let's go tech boomers.
Can I just have that document back, please, for a second?
Oh, sorry guys. I was chewing on a stick. Sorry. CG says, "What's going on, buddy? How you doing? Good to see you. We're watching a trial. Lady is accused of helping cover up the murder of her boyfriend's wife because she's the other woman. So." She's a bit of an attitude. She's a social worker. They all have attitudes. That's why they're social workers. That's also part of the issue too, but she's a social worker, so
Ms. Streeter, I'm going to now hand you back Exhibit Q.
brings us
See if this
Sally
is the
guilty.
complete report that you indicated that you had.
They're looking for a pic of the cake.
Yes, this is the full report.
We'll
It
take a
includes
look
all
at
the
that in a second,
details
Stabby.
of your visit as required by your assignment and your job.
Yes.
I'm going to offer it, Your Honor,
He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it.
all 3 pages as a full exhibit.
Your Honor, I'm assuming counsel, based on counsel's questions, he's offering it as a business record.
Yes.
There's no objection based on that representation.
And what would be the letter, please?
Q, I believe. That's Exhibit Q. No, it's part of the same exhibit.
Really? Well, yeah, I think you've altered it though, have you?
Well, it's easier for the clerk to have 2 exhibit letters, correct? Q and R?
Well, if we just take it off and fix it.
Well, let me, if I could just have it to show the clerk how I stapled it. Okay.
Okay, yeah, this is kind of like a not abnormal thing. You know, yes, you generally are in charge of labeling your exhibits, but the clerk in charge
What
of
is the
like
letter? Defense Q admitted as a full exhibit.
in charge of controlling
And
it.
I'm just going to show
Yeah.
the jury, this is your 3-page, I'll just stand here, make it easier. This is a 3-page report, correct?
Yes.
All right, and the last page does have your typed name at the bottom, correct?
Yes.
And it also mentions Dennis Fabler below. Did he have to co-sign?
Yes,
He did, okay. As the supervisor.
yes.
So I just have a few more questions then.
I mean, yes, normally done in their course of business to generate a document. So yeah, business record exception to
After
hearsay.
they finished eating, did somebody bust the table and clean up?
Yes,
They bring whatever was left over into the house?
yes,
They brought all the utensils into the house?
yes,
Who did
Mr.
that?
Dulos did not go into the house, correct?
correct.
The children brought everything in, right?
Yes.
By the way, did you see any other adults there besides Mr. Dulos and Ms. Dulos and yourself?
I
that
did
evening?
not. I did not.
Ooh, good. See, Michelle's out of the story. It's a way to do it. Michelle had no involvement.
Incidentally, because I didn't ask that specific question, Green's Farm closed at 6 that night, correct?
I'm not sure.
You don't recall?
I do not.
If I show you your report again, might it refresh your recollection on that point?
It may.
I'll just ask you to, may I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'll just ask you to look at the last sentence, last line rather, on page 2 of the first paragraph. See if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes.
Okay. And what time then, did that refresh your recollection?
Yes,
What time did the park close?
6 p.m.
And you said that they then at 6:15 were back at 69 Wells Lane, right?
Yes,
There was also some discussion, you said salad, there was also bread, I think.
Well,
mentioned.
counsel, before you proceed.
Yes.
The state has elected not to object, but where is this going?
Sorry, Your Honor.
We've heard about salad 3 times. Where is this going?
Wow,
Okay.
judge is just like, dude, what are we doing? That's a bad sign. When the state's letting you just like kind of stomp a mud hole, and the judge is like, okay, how much more mud do you want? You got to get there. So hopefully he shows.
Other things that were being eaten.
It's already in evidence, counsel, as a full exhibit. Are you going to go through every line of the document?
Well, I was certainly going to go through some of it. Yes, Your Honor.
He's gonna warn him. Hurry up. Very limited.
Proceed.
There was bread that was eaten, correct?
correct.
It was passed around, right?
Yes,
Then there was the cake. Somebody went in and brought the cake out, correct?
yes,
Cake was cut up and shared among the children
yes,
and Mr. Dulos?
yes.
Were you offered a piece of cake?
I don't recall.
Did you have one?
No, I did
You
not.
did not. Okay. In any event, they were playing like word games and stuff as well at the table.
Yes,
And at one point, I think you testified on direct, Ms. Dulos came back out onto the back patio. Isn't that right? Around 7:07?
707, yes.
And that's noted in your report, correct?
Yes,
Mr. Dulos told his wife that he was going to leave half the cake for the children and the one daughter that was having her name day or birthday, right?
I wouldn't specifically say half the cake, but he did leave cake and a candle for the
And a
one child.
candle. And did he hand that to his wife?
I don't recall.
He may have given it to her.
All right, guys, I gotta be
No,
right
I
back.
believe
Hold
that
on.
was given to the children to bring into the house.
It was given to the children. Okay.
He just
Give
mentioned
him the
that it was there.
churlins.
He mentioned to the wife that he was leaving.
Yes,
Yes. Were there sprinkles on the cake?
Now, you did note in your report that Mr. Dulos helped some of the
We'll get to
children
this, Patty. Hold
pack
on.
up and put stuff away, the food in the cake, right?
Yes.
Could you just describe what he did?
Put the utensils together, anything that was trash, put that all in a bag.
And where did all that go?
The children brought it into the home.
Into the house?
Yes.
Okay. Was the door open the whole time, or was there a door that somebody had to open and close to get in?
A door someone had to open and close.
Was basketball played again after the dinner?
Yes.
Did Mr. Dulos participate at all at that point?
Yes, towards the end.
He took a phone call at one point though, didn't he?
Yes.
But he took that away from the children, isn't that true?
No.
He did that while in front of the children?
Yes.
Okay. Before he left, did you observe whether there was any physical interaction between him and his children before he finished the visit?
Yes.
They hugged?
Yes.
He kissed
He kissed
his
the
children?
girls.
And they hugged and kissed him?
Yes.
Just have a moment. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Just briefly, Your Honor, if I may. Mr. Do you follow the line of questions regarding Fotis Dulos' interactions primarily with Jennifer? You recall Attorney Schoenhorn asking you about their interactions?
Yes.
Okay. And you, I think, indicated that they were friendly with each other?
Yes.
In fact, Mr. Dulos was complimentary of her that day, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he indicated that he was, stated, let's see, it was nice hoop with the basketball and it was very, I guess, approving of things that she's done. Would you say that?
In regards to the basketball hoop, yes.
And he, gave her candy, asked her if he can eat there instead of eating out of the car. Would you say that interaction was very friendly as well?
Yes.
And were you aware that he actually arrived an hour early?
Objection, hearsay.
It's in the report, Your Honor. I'm actually just reading off of counsel's report.
All right, I withdraw the objection.
Yes, I was aware.
And then he left though and came back. Is that right? And
Yes.
and so he wasn't on the property when you weren't there, at least to your knowledge.
Except for when he showed up at 3:30.
Okay. And you weren't there at 3:30 though?
I was
were you?
not.
Okay, so you didn't see that?
I did not.
Now, even later when they were having cake and the council directed you to page 2, the bottom half of your statement, in the conversation about the cake and he left, he even offered Jennifer half the cake for the child. And would you say that interaction was very friendly as well?
Yes.
Okay. And most of these interactions were instituted by Mr. Fotis Dulos, right?
Yes.
Where he would offer a chocolate bunny, or he would offer the cake, and he would offer the advice on the basketball hoop to Jennifer Dulos. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So that day on May 22nd, Wednesday, when he arrived, he was every interaction that he instituted with Miss Jennifer Farber Dulos, he was very friendly with her. Is that
Yes.
correct? Thank you. Nothing further.
You just indicated you were told that he had arrived early for his visit with the kids. correct?
Yes.
But you also knew that he had left because he was early, right?
Yes.
But you also knew that there had been amicable, friendly visitations just prior to that, correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Streeter, you may step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we will stand in our morning recess until 11:40. Please do not discuss the case.
All rise. This honorable Superior Court now stands in recess. You may exit the courtroom.
Yes, Tilly, the questions we all want to know. All right. This does bring up a thing here. Patty brought up a question I do want to get to. Can the judge at the end of the state's case say there isn't enough evidence to continue? I mean, I guess technically he has that inherent authority to sua sponte, do that, but he won't. He's going to make the defense do that motion. It'd have to be a very, very unique set of circumstances for the judge to unilaterally do it. But yes, there might be a motion for acquittal and the judge agrees. Generally, he's never going to do that, but we'll see. So it's not a bad question. Very good question. All right, so let's time travel a little bit here.
Symbols, the court.
Nefarious. She's been doing this for a long, sort of handwritten. It is, Judge, so
I don't think it's going to
Ooh, we have
apply to
something.
me. No, I was just informed.
We have something brewing. Here we go. Uh-oh. So we got some hijinks.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Judge, I just want to note, I was just informed by Mr. McGinnis that the next witness has a substantial amount of notes that she prepared for her testimony, which the state didn't previously have, so they didn't provide to me. I may need a break before I do my cross-examination. I don't know if the state's going to go till 1, and I'll try and use the lunch time to go through it. I'm just indicating to the court, this is something I don't think Mr. McGinnis knew.
it is, Judge. So I spoke with Ms. Roy this morning. She brought sort of her own sort of handwritten notes or what have you for these types of things. She's a professional witness. She's been doing this for a long time. She just wants it with her on the stand so that if she needs to refresh her recollection or refer to
He needs to
something.
see those
I understand the
notes.
Counsel obviously is entitled to inspect whatever he wants, but
Yeah.
just note, Judge, that she is a professional witness. She's been doing this for a long time. I don't think that there's anything nefarious about these notes, in other words. So
That's not the point. The point is there might be something helpful in there that I might want to use.
Well, if counsel can read the notes
Either that or she
In
doesn't
other
get to
words,
take
they
her
may not
notes
be
up
in-
there.
in prose form,
Yeah.
they may be in symbols, the court does not know.
I can say this, Your Honor. I've looked at a number of Ms. Roy's handwriting. It's certainly better than mine, and I can read it. And I'm somewhat knowledgeable about this area, having, I'm not an expert, but I've handled these type of matters before. So I might be able, just during the lunch break, to be able to bring myself up to speed by looking through.
Yes,
them.
he has
I'm certain
every
what
right
I
to
would be
read
looking
those.
for and what would be unnecessary. I just want to make sure I can.
He has every right to examine those. State's like, oh, well, it's like, because there might be exculpatory material. He has the right to examine them. So,
Flip through it quickly.
Thank you. Are we ready to bring the jury in?
the state cannot
Yes,
object
Judge.
to that. Because if they do, then it's like, fine, she brings no notes. And they'll be like, yeah, we don't want to do that.
And
They want her to
Attorney
have
McGinnis,
notes.
Before you begin to inquire, the court is just going to indicate to the witness that there are interpreters and the information is technical. So the interpreter is going to be a few words behind the witness. And as a result, we would ask the witness to speak in a moderate tempo.
yes, sir.
Would counsel stipulate, please?
Yes,
Yes,
Judge.
sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Christine Roy.
From the Roy family, like on secession.
You could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God or upon penalty of
Also, guys,
perjury?
sorry, there's no
Yes, I do.
captions today.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Christine Roy, R-O-Y.
Ms. Roy, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Ms. Roy, the court, you may be seated.
Oh, okay.
The court would just point out, to your left, you will hear an interpreter. The court understands that this testimony will be technical, and the interpreter will be a few words behind your words, but fairly simultaneous. So we would ask that you would speak in a moderate tempo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Roy, I want to direct your attention now to May and June of 2019. Were you working at the Connecticut State Forensic Laboratory?
Yes, I was.
Have you since retired?
Yes, I have.
When did you retire?
The end of 2021.
God,
What was your
everybody's
position at the
retired.
State Laboratory prior to retirement.
Forensic Science Examiner 1.
And what is your educational and training background in forensic science?
I have a Bachelor of Art degree in biology from Gettysburg College, and I have a Master of Science degree in forensic science from John Jay College.
What particular department of the state laboratory were you a part of when you retired?
I was part of the forensic biology DNA section. Particularly, I was then working in the forensic biology unit
How many years did you work at the state laboratory?
for about 21 years.
Were you always in the same position?
I always was a Forensic Science Examiner 1, but I
Yeah, there
also
could be
worked
COVID-related
in the
retirements.
DNA unit of the forensic biology DNA section. So I had duties in both units until about 2015, when I requested to just work in forensic biology unit.
What does the forensic biology unit do?
It examines physical evidence for the presence of physiological fluids such as blood, semen, and saliva. We do testing on stains, and then we send samples or the stain to DNA for further testing. We also collect other materials from the evidence for DNA testing, and we write out notes, which then we will sometimes write into reports, and then we sometimes have to come and testify on those reports. In addition to that, I was also the forensic biology training coordinator for a while.
And you mentioned that sometimes you have to testify. How many times approximately would you say you've testified in court with respect to your duties at the state laboratory?
About 75 to 80 times.
Does the state laboratory receive evidence from law enforcement agencies throughout the state?
Yes, it does.
When evidence is submitted to the laboratory from an agency, what happens to it?
It enters through evidence receiving, where it gets logged in, and if a case has not already started, it starts a case, and everything is tracked through a computer system, which is called LIMS, Justice Track. And they assign a case number, and then the evidence is given a submission number, and then depending on the request by the submitting agency, different sections in the laboratory are notified.
When a piece of evidence comes to the state laboratory, it often or almost always has a police or law enforcement agency exhibit number that's associated with it, correct?
Correct,
However, the laboratory gives it its own unique number under a case number that the laboratory generates, correct?
correct.
And is the state laboratory a secure facility?
Yes, it is.
I want to direct your attention now to laboratory case number 19002984. Did you perform analysis under that particular case number?
Yes, I did.
And you indicated that you've since retired at the end of May 2021. Are you being compensated for your time here?
I retired at the end of the year of 2021, and yes, I am getting financially compensated.
All of the items that you analyzed, however, were analyzed while you were an employee at the state laboratory. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you share the responsibilities of that case number with anyone else in the forensic biology department?
Yes, I did.
Who was that?
Anita Valones.
Can you tell us first about laboratory protocol and precautions taken by you to prevent the contamination and destruction of evidence at the laboratory?
Is that a good thing or bad thing, Tilly?
Well, to begin with, we document the packaging. So we take photos or photocopy it, and then we write out worksheets where we also document packaging. And then we have a work area, and we clean that work area with bleach, and then we line it with fresh paper. And while we're working in the lab, I would wear a lab coat, protective sleeves, which were disposable, gloves, which are disposable, a hair covering, and a mask. That was all to protect the evidence, the integrity of the evidence.
And when you receive a piece of evidence, can you walk the jury through sort of your general process in terms of what you do with it initially, what you're looking for, and the additional steps that you take depending on the kind of evidence?
Sure, we do get some information about the case. Usually it comes with a request for examination. And so we know what type of case it is. And so the first thing would be documenting the packaging. And then when I'm all ready to start my work, opening the packaging, documenting what's in there with photos. And then I would look to see if I'm looking for a specific physiological fluid, what do I see? I'd make notes on my worksheets. The condition of the item is also noted on my worksheets and also photographed. And then I would start my testing and documentation of those tests. And then if appropriate, I would take samples and send them to DNA. And if possible, I would retain some of the sample in the laboratory. And I also would collect trace materials. Trace materials are something that's not the original part of the item. So that would be hair-like fibers, colored fibers, plant material, mineral matter, which is what we refer to as the soil, or little rocks or pebbles, anything like that we would collect. If, depending on the case, we either repackage it and return it to the original packaging, or we retain it at the laboratory.
And have you provided the state with a copy of your curriculum vitae?
Yes, I did.
Judge, I move exhibit 105 in as a full exhibit without objection. It's Ms. Roy's curriculum vitae.
105 admitted as full.
Yeah, the CV automatically comes in, guys. That's not a issue at all.
You mentioned that you sometimes send things to DNA for further analysis. Is that correct?
Correct.
What is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the genetic material that we all have that determines who we are as a human being and as an individual.
And are you familiar with the term touch or trace DNA?
Yes, I am.
What does that mean?
So touch DNA, if to give an example, would be the biological material left behind on the object. So say if somebody drops a pen at a crime scene and it's submitted to the lab, that crime may not involve any kind of physiological fluid. So what I would do was moisten a sterile swab with water and then swab the surface of that pen, collecting any biological material that was there. Then I let the swab dry and cut the swab off, place it in a tube, label the tube, and then that tube goes into a little plastic bag that again is labeled, and then I heat seal it, initial it, and then it would be available for DNA testing. So that's basically touch DNA, is the biological material that could be left behind on an item.
And that biological material that can be left behind on an item, that includes something known as epithelial cells. Is that correct?
Correct. That could include the epithelial cells that you shed from your skin.
And has there been research on the term shedder?
Yes.
What does that mean?
There's been research that looked into, like, some people are what they call high shedders, that their skin just naturally flakes off more. And then, so it's like the nature of a person's skin, plus how they handle something, plus the texture of the item, how long it's been handled. All of those things can affect how much biological material a person might leave behind.
And you mentioned that in order to take a sample for eventual DNA testing, you have to moisten a sterile swab and apply it to the area that you're looking to test. Is that correct?
Correct. That's if we're collecting touch DNA, that's how I would go about it. Sometimes to collect stains, we also do that. We moisten a swab with sterile water, and then we swab that area, collect the stain or the area we want to collect on that swab. The swab is then put in a cabinet to dry. And then when it's dry, we cut the swab off and again, put it in a tube that's labeled.
And in fact, sometimes you'll actually cut a piece of the object itself off depending on what it is. So just for example, if you had, say, a shirt that appeared to have a blood-like substance on it, you might actually just cut a piece of the shirt and put that in the swab for DNA testing. Is that fair?
That's correct. Something like a hammer, of course, I couldn't cut out a piece of the hammer. So if I wanted to collect a stain on it, I would have to do the swabbing method.
Now, there's a lot of exhibit numbers in this case, and the laboratory, I think you indicated, also gives their own submission number. I want to talk to you, though, about when you do a swab or you take a piece of trace evidence from a particular object that you're analyzing, that actually gets a sub-item number. Is that correct?
Yes, it does. So there's a couple of things that can happen when you get evidence in a bag. If there's multiple pieces of evidence in a bag, then say the submission number is 5, then one item gets 5-1. A second item would get 5-2, the third item 5-3. Now, when I go to examine 5-1, my samples would be 5-1S1, 5-1S2, 5-1S3. So that's how the numbering system goes. Now, additionally, we don't use this numbering system anymore in the laboratory, but at the time I was doing this examination, I was using it. The latent print examiner, even if there's one item in the submission bag, they will sub-item it as 5-1. So it can be a little confusing if you're not used to the system.
But the items that you swabbed or took would have been identified by an S in front of it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the S stood for serology, not sample. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the traditional serology.
And serology is what?
Serology is when they used to
Yes,
do blood typing and
serology.
all those kind of, it's the traditional name for like forensic biology, serology.
And approximately in your career, I believe you indicated 21 years at the state laboratory, how many pieces of evidence have you analyzed over the years?
Oh, thousands.
And approximately how many swabbings of evidence have you taken over the years?
Oh, well over hundreds of swabbings I've taken, yes.
Now, are there times where you simply document the evidence or even take a swabbing or something off the object as trace evidence and it does not get forwarded to a different department of the laboratory?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
In other words, not everything that you ultimately swab or take from an object and retain does get forwarded to DNA, for example.
That's correct.
And who makes the decision whether or not to forward something?
It can be myself as the analyst understanding the case, or sometimes when it gets to case management, they might know more information, or they may just be wanting to send one group of samples first and then wait to see what the results are before they send all of the samples that I've picked out for DNA testing. So and then I might find out some information later on and then send something that I was not planning on sending.
Now, in this particular case, under the particular case number that we've already referenced, there were actually a number of swabbings that were submitted directly by the state police. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In other words, swabbings that you did not take at the laboratory yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We got evidence on this case from 3 submitting agencies.
Now, when a swabbing comes into the laboratory, how is it processed?
Again, we document the packaging. We document any kind of internal labeling that's on the packaging. Sometimes the swabs come in boxes. Sometimes they come in paper, thin paper, little like packet envelopes. And we document any writing that might be on those swab boxes or little envelopes. And then we would make a note of how many swabs are there and what color the swabs are present, what coloring is on the swabs. And then we would choose, depending on the information we have, to do our own testing or just cut them off and send them to BNA or retain them.
Now, you mentioned that you make a decision whether or not to do your own testing with the swab. I want to talk to you about when a swabbing comes into the state laboratory and it indicates that it has already been tested, specifically the acronym KM+. Are you familiar with that acronym?
Yes, I am.
What does that stand for?
One of the screening tests for blood that we use in the laboratory is called the Kastle-Meyer test. And if it is positive, it indicates the presence of blood. So the plus sign indicates that they got a positive result.
And when a swabbing comes in with a KM positive result, or even a KM negative result for that matter, does the laboratory test those swabs again for blood?
No,
Can you just explain to the jury why not?
because we want to be conservative on the sample that we're given. And if someone's already done a test, we do not repeat that test and therefore use up some of the sample that's being submitted. So that would, be kind of wasteful of that precious evidentiary sample that we're getting.
Precious fluids.
Now, the police department occasionally calls these presumptive blood tests. However, the state laboratory uses a different term. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You call it a screening test.
Yes, we call it a screening test.
And you mentioned the Kastle-Meyer test already. Are there any other screening tests that the state laboratory uses?
We use a second test. It's called O-toluidine, and it is similar to the Kastle-Meyer, except that it is more sensitive than the Kastle-Meyer test. The reason that we don't use it routinely is because it contains a carcinogen. So therefore, we reserve it for samples that maybe there isn't a lot present, or we know it could have been a compromised area that was collected. So, and we have to do that test under a venting chemical hood. So even though it's more sensitive, we reserve that test not to do for every blood stain that we see.
And to be clear, that's also just a simple screening test. It is not a confirmatory test, correct?
That's true. It is, if positive result, it indicates the presence of blood.
And have you had training in administering those particular tests, the Castlemeyer and this-
Otoludine?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
And were you required to also get recertified in those tests?
It's not called recertified, but twice a year I had to take a proficiency test.
Proficiency.
And those proficiency tests contain stains with physiological fluids. So besides using the screening test and the confirmatory test for human blood, I also had to do, if appropriate, testing for semen and saliva, depending on the case scenario and what the stains look like, obviously.
So there are confirmatory tests that can be done at the laboratory to verify whether or not a particular substance has human blood present. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Well,
just briefly, what tests are those?
We
It
we
doesn't
have a
really show
test,
anything.
it's an immunological test.
let's
It's very
just go with
similar to
joint
what we used for COVID. That if it's positive, you get 2 bands, and if it's negative, just the test band shows up, just the control band shows up, and the test band doesn't show up. So the first one we use is a test that detects glycophorin A, which is a protein on the red blood cells of human red blood cells. So if that test is positive, then we can conclude that human blood is present. The second test we have, which is more sensitive than the glycophorin A test, is called the hematrace test, which detects human hemoglobin. So that also works in a similar fashion as the COVID test, with the 2 bands for positive, and if there's no line at the test site, then it's negative. Now, that test is not as specific as the glycophorin A test. It's been shown that the hematrace test will cross-react with ferret blood and higher primates like orangutans. So therefore, if it's positive, we say human blood indicated. Now, it does confirm the presence of blood, but we have to say human blood indicated because it cross-reacts with those other species.
Now, you personally actually handled all of the swabbings that were submitted by the law enforcement agencies in this particular case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Was there ever a test? Let me ask it this way. Of all the swabs that were submitted in this case by law enforcement agencies indicating a KM positive result, there was never a test done which proved that there wasn't blood on those swabs. Is that correct?
Are you,
I'm going to object to the vagueness of that question.
Well, it was
It's a
more
double negative.
complex than vague.
In other words, swabbings came in as KM positive. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And there was never any test done which refuted the KM positive result. Is that true?
That's true. Anything that was shown on the packaging or information I had that said KM positive, I did not go ahead and redo the screening test for blood on that sample.
Now,
So I'm going to object, so that to refute as opposed to not confirm, I think is the.
The question
Yeah.
concerned, essentially, the inference of the question was that there was some other analysis performed in addition to the KM test. But the response from Ms. Roy is that if it came in KM positive, no other analysis was
that's
conducted.
correct, Judge.
So the testimony is that once the KM positive indication was reviewed, no further testing was done.
That's correct, Judge.
Thank you.
Now, did you perform any confirmatory blood tests in this case?
Yes, I did.
And what items did you perform confirmatory blood tests on?
I did the glycophorin A test, which if positive says human blood is present on a stain that I removed from a striped shirt. And I did the glycophorin A test on a sample that I had removed from the bra. And then I did the hematrace test on a sample of reddish brown stain that was collected off of some trace material that was I collected from a poncho.
Your Honor, at this time, I have what has been marked as State's Exhibit 103. It is a joint stipulation between the parties. I've asked to move it in and publish a portion of it.
Any objection?
No, but I just have a moment, counsel.
Oh, just downtime. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's go.
No objection.
States 103 admitted as full.
Read non-kilotastic.
So, Your Honor, as I indicated, this is a joint stipulation between the parties, specifically paragraph 12, and I'll just publish that to the jury.
Here we go.
State Police Exhibit 502U seized from Hartford by Sergeant Kevin Dugan on May 31st, 2019, and identified as one black plastic garbage bag tied in a knot containing a shirt and bra with a blood-like substance. With a blood-like substance contained within State Police Exhibit 502, seized from the scene, corner of Albany Avenue and Green Street, Hartford, Connecticut, was subsequently submitted to the Division of Scientific Services and designated as submission number 41.
Okay.
Ms. Roy, are there gloves available to you?
Oh, yes.
And if I could just retrieve States Exhibit 60 and 61.
Crinkle, 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 crinkle. 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 What's in the bag?
Just for the record, Your Honor, I'm approaching with what has been entered into evidence as States Exhibit 61, full exhibit. It's the shirt.
Thank you.
Mr. Lloyd, could you just familiarize yourself with this exhibit and just tell the jury what it is?
This is marked submission 41-1 shirt, and I can see that as I.
Just says
wrote
shirt.
41-1 shirt and my initial CMR.
And I believe you indicated that when an item comes to the laboratory, it gets its own submission number. The shirt submission number was 41-1. Is that correct?
The shirt was contained in submission 41. There was multiple items in that submission, so it was itemized as 41-1.
Right. And the item it was in was a box. Is that correct? And the box got designated as 41.
I don't recall the original packaging. I could look it up.
No, that's okay. Would you mind just opening this up? And perhaps maybe, would you like to set that down?
Sorry?
Would it be okay? if you-
That's fine.
So just a couple of preliminary questions before we open the bag. Firstly, when you received this particular item, did you document its condition?
Yes, I did.
And was there any damage to the shirt that you observed?
Yes, there was.
What type of damage?
We call it, when we see damage, we call it area of damage, because I'm not an expert in fabrics. So I don't know if it's cut or torn. So we just refer to it as a general statement as area of damage. And the area of damage that I noticed in this shirt when I received it was that there was area damage going from the neck opening down the front to the bottom opening of the shirt.
Would you mind just taking the shirt out of the bag? And
Oh
just
my God,
displaying
who's rubbing the mic?
damage that you noted?
Can I lay this?
Certainly, certainly. Just for the record, Judge, she's holding up what's been entered into.
We've
evidence
seen
in
this shirt
States Exhibit
before, so
61, and for the record, she is displaying
nothing,
what appears
nothing new for
to be the
us.
shirt to the jury. Is that correct, Ms. Roy?
Yes, and here's my initials on the shirt, CMR.
And do you typically initial an object if you're able to designate that you yourself worked on it?
If I'm able to, yes.
All right. And would you mind just displaying 61 to the jury and just telling us where the area of damage is?
It's right down the front. And this area right here is where I took my sample. So that's not the area of damage that came with the shirt.
Okay, and just for the record, when you say this area right here, you're referring to a defect on the left side of the shirt, which appears to be a hole. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, and
And-
it's the one we've seen.
The defect was
Prison chic.
something that you did to the shirt. Is that right?
Correct. When I took my sample, I took my cut
Cut it out.
there.
Okay. And
That's
when
common.
you, took your cutting. What were the steps that you took with that particular cutting?
I tested this area first with the chemical screening test for blood, and it was positive. And then I took a sample right here. First I photographed the shirt, and then I photographed this area. Then I photographed it where I took my cutting. I photographed the cutting, and then I photographed the portion that I was sending to DNA.
And did you eventually also do a confirmatory blood test on that particular sample?
Yes, I did the glycophorin A test, and it was positive. So therefore, I could say human blood was detected.
Repackage. Would you mind just staying with me, Ms. Roy, for just a moment?
Okay, I'm just going to change my gloves.
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
Judge, just for the record, I'm holding State's Exhibit 62, which is also part of submission number 41. And this is a bra. I'm just going to ask that you remove State 62 from its packaging and just display it for the jury. And
This would be probably one, typically.
And just for the record, Ms. Roy, you are holding together two pieces of one bra at the center front of the bra, is that correct?
Correct.
And so this bra, similar to the shirt, was damaged when you received it, is that right?
Yes, there was this area of damage right between the two cup areas.
Did you perform any screening or confirmatory tests on this particular
Let's
object?
go. Come on, guys.
Yes, I tested an area right here, which is missing, with the screening test for blood. It was positive. So then I went through the same routine I did with the shirt. I did a cutting right here and then photographed
Did you guys really need to know that? Like, shocker, it's blood.
the portion that I was sending to DNA.
Oh,
And then later on, there was a request for a confirmatory test for blood. So I did on a small portion of the retained stain.
And just for the record, Ms. Roy, the portion that you tested, you're directing jury to the right side of the bra. There appears to be a piece of the fabric missing. Is that the area that you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And there was received clips in the back. It was received like this.
Turning 61 and 62. All right, this time, I would just ask for permission to be able to remain seated while I display some photographs. It's just a little easier for me to see. Is that okay?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I have what has been pre-marked for identification as State's Exhibit 109. It's a DVD-R labeled Christine Roy, and I would move that in as an exhibit at this time as a full exhibit.
No objection. There was a stipulation, but I don't know if we're gonna, when you want to do it. There's contingent on a certain stipulation at the appropriate moment.
Thank you. 109 admitted as full. States 109 admitted as full.
And then there's also 109A, which are thumbnails of the photographs on the disc. I would move those in as well, again, subject to the stipulation.
No objection to that.
States 109A admitted as full.
Your Honor, just for the record, I am going to be opening a subfolder inside of State's Exhibit 109 entitled State Police Exhibit 502U and Submission 41, Lab Submission 41.
Your Honor, can I
Yes.
refer to my notes?
Yes, if you need to, as to refresh your recollection, certainly.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Roy, I believe you indicated that one of your processes at the state laboratory is to photograph evidence as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the items that we just saw, specifically State's Exhibit 61 and 62, which are your item numbers 41-1 and 41-2, did you photograph those?
Yes, I did.
And Ms. Roy, I just want to ask, is the the computer screen in front of you on?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, within that folder is a photograph entitled Lab 41.1 Exterior Front. I'm just going to display that now. Ms. Roy, is this the item that we just viewed in court?
Yes, it is.
And can you just explain to the jury the documentation on this photograph and sort of what we're looking at?
Sure. In the upper right-hand corner is where the case number, the item number, my initials, and then it tells me that that's the exterior front.
And I see on this photograph, there's a notation 41S1 KM positive. What does that denote?
That means that's where the item was taken. This is before the item was taken, but it's an overall picture, so that's why I'm indicating on it where I did take the cutting 41-1S1. KM is the screening test that I used. It was positive. And then I have a notation that there are additional photographs of that area.
And do you recall whether or not this photograph was taken before or after you had taken the sample from the shirt?
It was taken before.
In that same folder, Lab 41.1 Exterior Back. Is this a reverse of that shirt? In other words, this is the back of the shirt?
Yes, that's the exterior back of the shirt.
You mentioned earlier that you actually cut a portion of the shirt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And was that also photographed?
Yes, it was.
I'm displaying Lab 41.1S1. Is this the cutting that you took?
That's the photo of the cutting after I removed the sample for DNA. And then that's the top photo. And then the bottom photo shows the portion that I cut from it to do the confirmatory test for human blood.
So in other words, one of these went to DNA and the other one was used by you to confirm whether or not it was human blood?
These photos does not show the portion that I sent to DNA.
Understood. The bottom piece here, which is circled, that's what went for confirmatory DNA testing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Or excuse me, not confirmatory DNA testing, confirmatory human blood testing.
That's correct.
And I'm just displaying within that same folder a photo entitled 41.2 Exterior Front. Can you just tell the jury what we're looking at here?
That's the right and left side of the exterior front of the bra.
And are there any areas of damage which are noted here?
Yes, there's the edge that is shown in the left side, and then the edge that's shown in the right side.
Okay, and just for the record, when you're referring to the edge on the left-hand side of the photo, there appear to be some metal prongs touching the end of the bra. Is that where the damage is located?
Yes,
And then this photo Lab 41.2 exterior right chest area. Can you just indicate what this photograph shows?
that shows the area where I took the cutting from, the actual cutting. Then it shows the bra after I took the cutting. And then it shows the piece that I retained, 41-2S1, And 41-2S1 asterisk was the portion that I sent to DNA. And then the lower right photo shows that the exterior back as received. So it shows that it was clipped together, and then where I put my initials.
And so was one of these cuttings ultimately tested for confirmatory blood?
Yes, the retained portion 41-2S1, a portion of that was used to run the test that confirmed human blood was present.
And this is 41.2S1, just a close up. Is this just a closer up view?
Look,
of that sample you took from the bra?
Yes,
We already know where this is going. They're testing all of it, but what did the testing show? I mean, I know they got to do it, but that's where I'm at with this. So
that shows what was retained in the lab, and then the bottom photo shows the cutting that I took from that stain to do the FB testing. I'm sorry, that is not very clear. By FB testing, I mean the confirmatory test for human blood.
Now, submission number 41 also had a bag associated with it. Is that correct?
Yes, it did.
41-3.
Yes, it did.
And I'm just going to display the photo 41.3 as received. What are we looking at here?
That shows one side of the bag as it's laid out on the lab bench. So you have the bottom of the bag, which is the closed part, the opening, which is shown there, and then you have a knotted area between the bottom and the opening.
And this bag was submitted with the bra and the shirt. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Were any swabs taken of this bag?
Yes, I took swabbings from this bag.
And specifically, I'm going to pull up a photo 41.31S1. Excuse me, strike that. I'm pulling up photo 41.3S2. What does this photo display?
That shows the knotted area of the bag. And so I loosened that knotted area and I tried to swab the interior of the knotted area. And I designated that swabbing 41-3S2.
And can you tell the jury why you decided to swab the knotted area?
Because the interior of it would be protected from, say, any other damage, or it would maybe have the DNA or biological material of the person that may have handled that area when they knotted it.
When you looked inside of submission 41-3, did you find anything? If you have to refer to your notes, that's
Oh, yes, yes, I did.
What did you find?
Women's panty liner.
And did you also swab the panty liner?
Yes, I did that. And I also, there was a reddish brown stain on the panty liner.
I'm pulling up photograph 41.31S1. Does this photograph display the panty liner that you found inside of the bag?
Yes, it does.
And does this photograph also designate where you took the swabbing?
I don't know, it doesn't designate where I took the swabbing, but the swabbing was taken on the absorbent side of the panty liner, which is what is shown in these photos.
yes, yes.
And new photo 41.31S2, just displaying that for the jury. How many swabbings did you take of the panty liner?
I just took one. I took the sample, the reddish brown stain, which I designated as 41-3-1S1, because the submission was 41, the bag was 3, and the panty liner was found in the bag. So therefore, the panty liner was 41-3-1. So the reddish brown stain that was positive with the screening test for blood, I designated 41-3-1S1. And then I did a swabbing of the absorbent side, which I designated 41-3-1S2.
And this photograph shows the area that you swabbed, is that correct?
Correct.
And just for the jury's benefit, I'm directing your attention to the upper photograph, which shows where the swab was taken. Now, you also analyzed additional evidence in this case, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And it's already been stipulated between the parties that State Police Exhibit 12, which was identified as doorknobs from the garage mudroom door, were submitted to the state lab as submission number 4. Did you analyze that particular submission?
Yes, I examined submission 4.
And can you just tell the jury what you did with submission 4 when you received it?
The first time I saw submission 4, it was in latent prints. Sometimes we work with the latent print examiner if there's reddish brown stains on something. And in the case, this item, there was a reddish brown stain with ridge-like detail on one portion of the doorknob, which was basically two knobs with the plates, and one side had screws and the other side did not. So therefore, in my notes, I refer to the side without the screws and the side with the screws. That's how I designated it. So that was the first time that I saw the doorknobs, was in latent prints.
And you mentioned latent prints. Can you tell the jury, generally speaking, if something needs to be fingerprinted and or analyzed for potential biological evidence or DNA evidence, who generally gets that exhibit first? Is it the forensic biology department or is it the latent print department?
In general, it's the forensic biology department, but we really do work closely with each other because for obvious reasons, I don't want to destroy possible useful latent print when I'm doing my examination or collection.
And did you take photographs of submission number 4?
Yes, I did.
All right, so I've opened the folder on State's Exhibit 109, designated State Police Exhibit 12, lab submission number 4. How many, did you take swabbings of this particular submission?
Yes, I collected 4 samples from submission 4.
And were they designated 4-1S1 through 4-1S4?
Yes, they were. So this submission came in as 4, and the latent print examiner, as they do, they sub-item the contents, even if there's one thing, as 4-1. So I then go off of the 4-1, S1, 4-1, S2, 4-1, S3, and 4-1, S4.
So I'm going to pull up the photo entitled Lab 4.1S1 and 1S4, directing your attention specifically to 4-1S1. What was that a swabbing of?
That was a reddish brown stain with ridge-like detail, and that was on this side of the doorknob without the screws.
And we're looking at a photograph here. Would this have been the bottom right? The
Correct.
bottom right photograph here?
Yes, correct.
And what was swabbing 4-1S4 of?
It was a swabbing of that reddish brown stain with ridge-like detail.
And is the area that you swabbed displayed in the upper right photograph here?
That's a different sample that I took.
4-1S4?
Yes,
Okay, what was that of?
that was a swabbing of the knob and the plate. That was for a touch-like sample. I didn't see any reddish brown staining there, but I wanted to swab up any biological material that might be there. So I collected a swabbing, which again is you moisten a swab, sterile swab, and then you swab that area.
Yeah, just to be clear, anytime you did a swabbing in this case, you followed that same process. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And I'm just displaying a photograph entitled Lab 4-1S1, 4-1S2. What was swabbing 4-1S2 of?
That was where I saw ridge-like detail, but I didn't see any blood or blood-like stain, reddish brown stain.
So again, you're attempting to get perhaps touch DNA or trace DNA?
Yes, touch DNA.
And 4-1S3, what was that a swabbing of?
So that's the side of the doorknob with the screws, and that's a touch type sample that was collected from the knob and the plate. So that's 4-1S3.
And was that particular swabbing or the area that you swabbed captured in the upper left photograph here?
Yes, it is.
And just one more photo, 4-1S3, 4-1S4. What do these photographs show?
That shows the doorknobs after I collected the touch samples from, which were 4-1S3 and 4-1S4. And then the bottom photo shows that the left side has the screws, the right side doesn't have the screws, and then where I put my initials.
And to be clear, all of these swabbings were subsequently forwarded to the DNA unit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I believe Krista Maydell was working on this case at the time. Is that right?
Yes, she was.
Your Honor, I'm just going to publish another stipulation between the parties. And
Yes,
again,
if you
this
could
is
read
the-
slowly, please.
Yes, sir. This is from State's Exhibit 103, paragraph 13. State Police Exhibit 154 seized from Hartford by Sergeant Michael Butin on May 31st, 2019, and identified as one FedEx envelope, color white, containing 2 altered Connecticut license plates seized from the scene, storm drain at 1344 Albany Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut, was subsequently submitted to the Division of Scientific Services and designated as submission number 96. Ms. Roy, did you analyze submission number 96?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to open the folder entitled State Police Exhibit 154, Submission 96 from that same DVD. Can you indicate to the jury what condition you received Submission 96 in?
You mean the appearance that I saw it?
Well, it was has been stipulated that it was 2 altered Connecticut license plates, and I was just wondering if you could explain to the jury what you observed when you first received the plates.
I could see that there was some tape layers on 3 of the letters on the license plate. And so therefore, it was referred to as being altered.
And did you take swabbings of these license plates?
Yes, I did.
And these license plates were subsequently designated as 96-1 and 96-2 because there were 2 of them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm displaying a photograph now entitled Lab 96 1S1. Were these the plates? Strike that. Do the plates in this photograph show the plates as you initially received them?
Yes, there's 2 photographs that show the plates at the plate as I received it. And you can see there's 2 little arrows that says as REC''D. So that would be the upper right one and the lower left one is how the plate appeared when I received it.
And did you remove the adhesive from the license plate yourself?
Yes, I did.
And after you removed the adhesive from the license plate, what did you do?
I then swabbed those areas of the plate, which were then uncovered by the removal of the multiple layers of tape.
And why did you take those particular swabbings?
Well, as you can see, the plates are very dirty, and so I was hoping that those areas might be protected, and therefore I was collecting any biological material or touch DNA sample that might be there.
And in the photograph on the right, we see what appears to be some markings, circular markings on top of the 1 in the middle of the D and connected to the J. Are those the areas that you swabbed?
Yes, it is. Yes, they are.
And were all of those areas that you swabbed designated as 96 1S1?
Yes.
And now I'm going to display Lab 96 1S2 photograph. What are we looking at here?
That's still 96-1. That's looking at the tape that I removed from the 3 areas. There's multiple layers of blue tape with some glue-like substance on them. So I separated the pieces of tape and then I swabbed both sides of the pieces of tape.
Did you observe any substances on the tape, such as a blood-like substance or anything like that?
No, I did not.
So you were essentially swabbing for touch DNA?
Yes, correct. That was a sample for touch DNA.
And then with respect to the second license plate, Lab 96-2, you also swabbed that license plate, is that correct?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
yes,
And this is item number 96-2S1, is that correct? And did you go through the same process for this particular license plate in that you removed the adhesive and swabbed the area around the adhesive?
I removed the tape and then I swabbed underneath where I had removed the tape on the license plate.
Similar to what you had done with the previous plate, is that correct?
That's correct.
Guys, I know it's riveting. We got to get through this. We're eventually
Now
going to get to a
displaying photograph
we're going to get to a
Lab
money shot at some
96-2S2.
point. It'll be worth it.
This was the tape that you removed from the second license plate.
Yes, it is.
And did you also swab this for potential DNA evidence?
Yes, I separated the layers of blue tape with glue-like substance and then I swabbed both sides of the tape.
All right, we have another stipulation here in State's Exhibit 104 regarding evidence seized from the Toyota Tacoma and submitted to the Division of Scientific Services. I move it into evidence.
No objection.
It's signed and stipulated, so no objection.
And specifically, I'm going to publish paragraph 5 of that stipulation, Your Honor. State Police Exhibit 323, seized from the Toyota Tacoma by Detective Matthew Riley on June 6, 2019, and identified as one Connecticut registration plate 6617CN with 2 screws, CA/DP, processed, seized from the scene, dash front, was subsequently submitted to the Division of Scientific Services and designated as submission number 97. Ms. Roy, did you also perform analysis on submission 97?
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to open the folder entitled State Police Exhibit 323, Lab Submission 97, and display a photo, Lab 97 1S1. Can you just indicate for the jury what we're looking at here?
The front and back of the license plate, and then around the perimeter of the edge, where you can see the outline with, I think it's blue outline. And that's where I collected the touch sample 97-1S1.
Did you observe any biological material on this particular license plate?
No, I didn't.
And so essentially you again are searching for perhaps touch DNA?
Yes,
And the second license plate was designated as 97-2, is that correct?
that's correct.
And did you also take a swabbing of that license plate for touch DNA?
Yes, I did.
Excuse me, I apologize. This is 97-2S1. What are these?
Those are the screws that were also included from the submission 97. There was an envelope with 2 screws, and I also swapped the screws, and the swabbing of the screws was designated 97-2S1. There was also 2 screws submitted with 97-1, and I swapped those. They were designated 96-2, and I swapped those as 96-2S1.
I believe, and I know it can be confusing, submission number 96 was the license plates from the sewer drain in Hartford. This is from a Toyota Tacoma.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. There's a lot.
Yes. So could we go back to that picture that you're showing right there?
Yes,
That you were showing?
yes. This is photograph Lab 97-2S1. So this was specifically State Police Exhibit 323.
Okay, so there was, in that submission, there was the license plate, and then there was a coin envelope with 2 screws and washers on those screws. And those washer screw combination were designated 97-2. And I took a swabbing of those for touch DNA, and that was designated 97-2S1.
And again, you didn't observe any biological material on these screws.
No, I did not.
I'm going to read from stipulation States Exhibit 104, paragraph 7. State Police Exhibit 325, seized from the Toyota Tacoma by Detective Matthew Riley on June 6, 2019, and identified as one Connecticut registration plate, 6617CN, with 2 screws, CA/DP process, seized from the scene, /rear, was subsequently submitted to the Division of Scientific Services and designated as submission 98. You also worked on a second license plate from the Tacoma, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was designated as submission 98.
That's correct.
And I'm just going to open that folder, State Police Exhibit 325, Lab Submission 98, and specifically display a photograph, Lab 98 1S1. Did you essentially go through the same process for submission 98 that you did for submission 97?
Yes, I did.
You did not view any biological material on these Tacoma plates. You simply swabbed them for potential touch DNA.
That's correct.
And I'm just going to quickly display 98 2S1. These were the screws that came with the what's been stipulated to be the rear plate. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you swabbed those as well for potential touch DNA?
Yes, I did.
Reading from States Exhibit 104, the stipulation. Paragraph 9, State Police Exhibit 363, seized from the Toyota Tacoma by Detective Matthew Riley on August 27, 2019, and identified as one interior door panel from the right door, was subsequently submitted to the Division of Scientific Services and designated as submission 99. Do you recall working on that door panel?
Yes, I did.
Have you worked on many door panels in your career?
Not a lot, a few.
So I'm just going to open that folder, State Police Exhibit 363, Lab Submission 99.
And there's the door turns back nothing.
And there's a photograph entitled Lab 99 per-end door panel. I'm going to open that photograph. Can you just explain to the jury what we're looking at here?
That's my overall photo of the exterior of the door panel. And I designated all the areas that I swabbed. Now, this doesn't show that I took apart the door panel. So I removed several of the pieces that I could from the door panel and collected those swabbings.
Now, specifically with respect to these swabbings, unlike maybe some of the previous samples that we've looked at, did you test any of these, strike that, did you perform screening tests on any of these swabbings for blood?
Yes, I did.
All right. And I want to just, if you need to refer to your report, that is perfectly fine. I'm actually going to just hand you for identification purposes, states 106, 107, and 108.
Could I please note, just want to say on my top, please?
Just going to hand you these for identification purposes. I know you brought your own materials, but in case you need to refer to a specific report that you offered here, they are.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to zoom in on this particular photograph. You indicated that you noted the areas that you swabbed, and there's a lot here. So I want to just begin with S1 and S2, which we see in the center left of the photograph. What area was that you swabbed?
There was switches there, and I removed that panel that the switches are on, and then I removed the actual switches from the panel.
Yes,
And why did you swab those?
all the
particular areas?
switches.
I had information that this door. was
Hey,
shown
I
to
think
be
Joe should
positive
call them the
luminol.
diggers. My
So-
diggers.
What I wanted to test was whether any of those swabbings would have a positive result with the screening test for blood.
Now, as I understand it, luminol can test positive on a number of different materials. Is that correct? Or a number of different materials can give a positive luminol test?
I have very limited experience with luminol. We don't use it in the laboratory. It's a crime scene screening test for blood.
I use
There are
luminol. I go by
things
taste
that do
tests.
react, such as cleaning products.
Now, did you observe yourself any blood-like substances or biological materials on this particular door?
No, I didn't see any reddish brown stains.
And then specifically, I'm just going to direct your attention now to S3, which appears to be a storage area on the door where things could be sort of inserted in. Did you swab that particular area?
Yes, I did. I swabbed the opening of that pocket. That was designated S3.
Pocket, better word. And S4, what area was that?
Okay, I called that a grill.
Doing a Drex
I
mode.
don't
Shot,
know
shot,
if
shot,
anybody
shot,
else,
shot, shot, shot,
usually
shot.
called it a speaker, but to me, I called it a grill. So the grill and the pocket, I actually was able to remove. And so S4 is on the panel itself, the opening of that grill.
We'll get to that,
which I
Patty.
had
That's a good
removed.
idea.
So I went around the edge, the opening, and swabbed that area.
And S5 is near the center of the door, near what appears to be a piece of carpeting near the door or on the door handle. Is that correct?
That's, I called that a fabric panel. And what I did was I pulled up the edge of the fabric panel, and then I went around the edge and swabbed the edge of the fabric panel.
With respect to swabs 1 through 5 or 99 S1 through S5, what screening test did you do on those?
I did the O-toluidine test, which again is the more sensitive of the screening tests. And the information I had was that this door may have been cleaned. So knowing that, I wanted to use the more sensitive test.
And
Well, Attorney McGinnis, it's about 1 o'clock.
yes, Judge.
What we will do is just stand in our luncheon recess. Does council need a little more time after the luncheon recess in order to review the notes?
Perhaps.
So what we will do, ladies and gentlemen, is take our luncheon recess today from 1 until 2:15.
This is at 1.25, guys.
Please do not discuss the case. And would council approach, please?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Would you approach counsel? Counsel. Yes, so counsel is approached. That is it. We're getting to the big DNA lady. This is going to be their big DNA person. And you know what she's going to say? Yeah, there was no DNA there. I couldn't find nothing. Or it's going to be, oh, it's Michelle. Or oh, it's Jennifer. Oh, it's Fotis. I doubt you're going to find things saying, it's Michelle. And yes, Patty, you brought something up to, at some point, just put up a big chart. I think that's probably what he's going to do at some point. What's the one thing we have, Michelle? She touched an envelope. That's it. That's all they got. What do you got? What do you got? And I don't think they got much. So I think that's where her attorney's probably taking this. I don't know for sure. There's got to be something that ties her here, because otherwise this makes no sense at all. I really don't get this otherwise. But I will say she's a very good witness. She's a very, very good witness. This lady is actually probably one of the better DNA people out there. I think she's doing a pretty good job at it. So, hold on here. Why is the... Come on. Charlie, I'm working on it. Hold on. I have to load it all up. Okay? There. I transed you, Charlie. You're transed. You transitioned. Forcibly. So. Brett says only use luminol at the rave. Ben is saying, so you're telling us there's no DNA. I'm saying there's no DNA that works that they said they could find. The attorney's already alluded to this, that they don't have anything. So. Ronnie's saying Michelle was sitting in that truck and they didn't find DNA that matched her. Well, remember, there's touch DNA and there's, touch DNA and, like, I might not leave DNA there. They have, like, it looks like they haven't found hairs or anything that they can use. So, remember, it doesn't, yeah. Why is it Janny short for Janissaries? You're a little too late in time for that. Probably back in the day it did, but not now. I've been Janissaries for a while, so. Read us the farm stuff Thursdays. What farm stuff? What farm stuff? So I'm not sure what you guys are getting at here. Oh, come on, No, I don't know. What did I do? Which, okay, look, that's not fair, because, oh, come on, there's like a million threads I know about, so. I'm pressing the microphone. Oh, no, this is actually the boom. This would be the microphone right here. If I was pressing that, just like. A little ASMR. Farm Reads is a great segment idea, kind of. Job well done. It's like, oh yeah, Big Daddy. But yeah, I don't know which one you're, Bella. You got to tell me what you want me to look at, because if you're on the farms reading too, then what are you reading? go over to the law threads on the farms. So Stabby saying, what about the translator? Michelle is a native of Venezuela, so she speaks Espanol as her primary language. And I think she's really leaning on that to protect herself, saying, oh, you know, oh, los míos, I just simple Spanish lady like Sofia Vergara. I just go ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. Like that, I think she's trying to do that. She's trying to use that as a crutch to hide behind. So that's why it's there. And she is entitled to. Spanish is her primary language. She is entitled to have an interpreter. So yes, she goes, I clean. Although she's way above that. She used to work for ESPN, so she's actually pretty good. No, but Bella said she wanted me to cover something. I don't see hot tub magic. Oh, I'm not covering that. That covers itself, literally and figuratively. Not covering that. Not covering that. Not covering that. It's like an IED sitting on the side of the road. I don't need to touch it or kick it. It'll go off on its own. Yes, she was for ESPN in ESPN Deporte. Which is so funny. That's ESPN Sports is ESPN Deportes. And it's like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, so when they just call it ESPN, you have to go back. Yep, their main office is in Connecticut. Yes, it is. So I did not broadcast. What? You guys are making very serious statements here that I think are very offensive about what I've done and what I have not done. How dare you? It's like DNA substances. Yeah. So allegedly, yes, allegedly. Is the hot tub story worse than the Vince story? I mean, the Vince story is pretty bad, but like I said, like I said last night to Megan Fox, I have a lot of questions about that Vince story that don't make a lot of sense. Like everybody's like, "Oh my god, he's so horrible." It's a complaint. It's just like an indictment. Yeah, you sound awful. And then how many times do we get to a lawsuit where it's like, well, did he actually poop on you? Well, no, it's more like he farted. Did you like it? Well, yeah, I kind of did. So we'll see there. It says tons of people look at cheese pizza, nothing to be ashamed of. Oh, there's a lot to be ashamed of there. How much jewelry does 2.0 make me do? None. She's self-sufficient. Unhung Hero for $2 is just like DNA substances. Yes. Thank you, Unhung. I appreciate it. Skippy saying, I wouldn't touch the hot tub thing with the stolen dick, a 10-foot pole, and Michelle Troconis helping out. Yes. And a ton of garbage bags. I won't touch it. So I'm not touching it. Oh, gosh. All right, guys. Well, look. I got to get ready. Oh. So, all right, guys. Well, I am going to, if you guys are all set for now, we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap this up and get ready for the show tonight at 9:30. I will see you guys then. So, is the trial done for today? No, there's a second half. but we don't have time for it before 9:30. So we'll probably pick it up tomorrow or catch up over the weekend because we've got today, the second half of today, and then whatever tomorrow they do. So we're about to get dumped, aren't you? Yes. So I'll see where I'll try to divert you guys somewhere. I don't know if anybody's on right now. Um. We got a lot to go over tonight, guys. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. What the heck happened here? Reach what? Okay, well, there we go. Let's see. Redirection. What can you go for? I don't think there's anybody live right now. It's I can't send you a trash cast because I don't have EVS's permission. So won't send you guys there. So I will see you guys in about 2 hours. Have a nice night, guys, and I'll see you then. Take care. Oh. Egalitarian says I can finally listen and you decide to leave. Wow. Well, it's what I do. It's what I do. Oh, it's uttered on. Okay. Well, it wasn't showing up. It wasn't showing up here, but all right, I'll do. Let me see here. I'll pick one. Yawn. Yanni. Yawning so much you call me Yanni. Because remember that? He used to sell they used to sell tapes to him on TV. I don't think I've sent anybody to Hayden in a long time, so I should probably do that. Aussie over. Come on. Why is it not showing up? It's not showing up. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Oh, because I don't have their. I don't think I have permissions from them. Oh, hold on. I gotta fix this here. Add, redirect, add. Yeah, guys, you know what? It's fighting me. Hold on here. Yeah, you know what? I can't set you up, guys, so you're on your own. You guys will figure it out. I'll either crash or get messed up. Yeah, I understand. I understand he's live, but you guys can go find him. Nobody's live, yeah. Nobody lived. So I'll see you guys in a little while. Take care.